Okay, we're live.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Amanda Keammerer. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Javilud. We're based here in San Antonio, where we transform innovation at the intersection of technology, people, politics, and art through creative collaborations. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you for being here at San Antonio Startup Week. I am this year's track captain for cybersecurity. This year, we're kicking off the track with a discussion around women in cyber in San Antonio, #squad goals. So I'm really excited to present this discussion today. The reason why, quick background on why we're doing this, it's really important to have different perspectives on cybersecurity. If you don't know, October, in addition to being San Antonio Startup Week /month, October is National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So we're here to present different perspectives on cybersecurity in San Antonio, from the academic perspective, from industry, and from the government perspective. So thanks for joining us today. If you are on social media, the hashtag for San Antonio Startup Week is #SASW. So make sure you join the conversation. And then if you look to your right, and if you don't have it open yet, there's a chat box at the bottom. So feel free to join with any questions as we go along, and we'll make sure that we have time at the end for any of your questions. So without further ado, let's get started. So joining me today, we have 3 speakers, which we're really excited to bring to y'all. First, we'll introduce Lynne Patrick. So Lynne is the technical director at 16th Air Force Cyber, which is based here in San Antonio, Texas. We also have Dr. Vanessa Garza Clark, who is the chair of the cybersecurity department at Our Lady of the Lake University, which is also one of our 5 National Centers for Academic Excellence, as designated by NSA and DHS here in San Antonio. And we also have Duvelza Saenz joining us for the industry perspective from Booz Allen Hamilton. So if you can see the speakers on your screen, all the speakers can kind of wave. And so we're really excited to have them here with us today. So let's see, now intros are done. We're gonna jump into questions. So first question is for all 3 speakers, and we'll start with Dee. So what was your path to cyber? What did that look like?
Thank you so much, Amanda. I hope everyone can hear me. Thank you everyone for inviting me to this event. I'm super excited to support this initiative. Everyone calls me Dee. So how I started out with cyber. So kid you not, I was a veterinarian technician, San Antonio South Side. Okay, I got certified, and this was after my funding ran out at UT Austin, and I was on a volleyball scholarship. And so I got really sick one year, and I lost my scholarship because if you can't play, you can't, they don't pay. And so I got certified really quick to be a veterinarian technician, and then I said, I euthanized a German Shepherd dog, one last euthanization, as I can't do this anymore. And I literally jumped onto the military bandwagon and went to the United States Navy. And it was one of the best decisions of my life. And I supported 3-letter agencies throughout the entire time of my career in the military, and then also now as a clear defense contractor. So I've been sheltered in many ways as far as the client set. I've always been with NSA or CIA. Here recently, I've been supporting the United States Air Force clientele with defense cyber operations. I'm totally stoked about what we're doing for them as well. And so I basically, that's really what happened. I was like, you know what, I got to get into the military. I gotta, be awesome with getting that GI Bill because I wanted additional funding. And based off my test scores, I was vetted to the intelligence community. And so that's basically how I got cherry picked out of the rest of the military members going through MEPS.
Gotcha. That is fascinating. And also sounds similar, somebody who's not on this panel, but I'll have to connect to y'all later, that accidentally got into cyber and ended up in the Navy. So I think that's so interesting. We'll have to have a Navy conversation about cyber someday, because it seems like that's an interesting path. Thanks, Dee.
Thank you.
So next we'll go to Lynn. So Lynn, what was your journey to cyber like? What did that look like for you?
Well, hi, everyone. Again, thank you, Amanda, for the invite and great panels. I've read your bios also. Should be an interesting day to get a little background and history from us and all why we came into cyber. So my husband was military. He retired, but when he was active duty, we moved everywhere. So I was getting an electrical engineering degree, was loving what I was doing, and we moved. And when we moved to our place over in Germany, they didn't offer an electrical engineering degree. So when I went to my counselor, they said, well, you've got all this math, science, and engineering. Why don't you go into computer science? And I went, okay. So from taking all that, I learned how to program and got in my computer degree. And as we continued to move throughout the Air Force, which was wonderful with my husband, I got a job. And I started out the very basics and the lower level that you could ever start out as a GS. And I did internships, loved everything I was doing. The challenges were never too big. I kept asking for more. They kept giving to me. I loved it. When you get to travel around, you get to do things and make a difference. It's just your passion. Your passion grows for loving what you are, and you make the most of who you are. My education didn't just start with a BS. I went on for other education, and then I really dove in, like Dee was saying, what do I need to learn from the professional education and everything else? Give it to me, let me invest it, and then how can I be the operator that's got the hands down and pulling cables, building things, standing up networks, and it's all good. It was always, as anything is with the threat of cyber, the community's always changing, it's always new. It pulls you in. You want to be there, you want to learn it, you want to do it, and you want to stay on the latest edge. It's just fascinating. So I've had a very great career in the Air Force, and look forward to sharing that with you and taking any questions you might have.
Awesome. Thanks, Lynn. Thanks for sharing that with us. I think it's interesting that, again, right, you had a certain path in your head of electrical engineering and then came to, a crossroads, either, stop completely or pivot. So I think that's something that maybe the entrepreneurs and startups in the audience can relate to, is that if you get an obstacle in your way, you just find a way around it. So I think that's really cool. Thank you for sharing that. So last but not least, Vanessa, do you want to share your story about how you came to cyber?
Yes, absolutely. And I was happy to hear Dee's story because mine is equally as indirect, maybe even more so. So I'm one of those double career people, and I up to very recently was still involved with both. But so what I did, I started my college career as pre-med, so completely different. And then at some point I decided that I did not want to do that. I didn't want to have, somebody's life in my hands, and I didn't want the crazy hours and the responsibility. And so I said, well, I'm going to switch out and I'm going to go to something else. So I said, I'm going to go to something in business. And so I chose general business for a while, and I thought, this is not for me. And then I went to accounting. So I chose accounting. I stuck with it. Accounting is one of my careers. As I was in college, I decided, I want to take up something else. And so back then, this is 1997. So actually it wasn't security. Cybersecurity as a field of study was non-existent in 1997 when I went to college. And so, but it was a big thing then was management information systems. And so it was brand new at my university. And actually the classes were taken in the computer science department. We didn't really have separate MIS courses. It was all computer science, but being held out of the School of Business, essentially. And so that's what I did. And so my degree, it's MIS, the equivalent of computer information systems today. And so then I went on to get a master's in accounting, master's in professional accounting. I worked in CPA firms for a long time. I've been a senior tax accountant. And then I went on to get a PhD. And so for the PhD, I kind of thought, well, I have two careers. Which one do I go with? And so I chose information systems. So that's what I went with. And then my job took me here. It brought me here. I came to a program that has cybersecurity is a huge part of our program at Our Lady of the Lake. And so you know, in academia, it's really different how you shift fields, right? It's more of you shift your research and you shift your what you're teaching. And so that's how I ended up being in cyber. So it was an indirect path at best, but a great one, you know. And so, and I love it when I love to share it, and I love it when somebody else shares something like that, because it shows the variety of backgrounds and careers that we can find in cyber. A lot of the times people will say, well, you know, but my background is in something else. It's not technical. It's, you know, it's okay. You know, we come from all walkways. And so, you know, it's fine if you come from a different field.
Thank you. No, I love that. I always joke with people, you know, if you look at my resume and just go by titles, it looks like I've been demoted my whole life just by titles, because they change and they depend, you know, they vary organization to organization. And then coming myself from nonprofits and social media marketing into the federal government, and then through grad school, right, to cyber, it was also a winding path, right? And I think that resonates with folks to hear that. And Vanessa, it's really cool. I didn't realize you were a CPA in a previous life. And I joke with people that we need accountants and we need HR and operations and cybersecurity as well. And so you can bring those skills to bear too. So now I actually have a real human example to use instead of just an abstract.
So just to clarify, I'm not a CPA. I have everything that I needed. And then I went on to do a PhD. So I never took the exam. But I do have a CPA firm, a lot of experience as senior tax accountant. And I did consulting and accounting up to last year. I didn't let it go. So I was still active all the way up to last year. So I enjoy it.
That's really cool. Thank you. And so actually that's a perfect segue into the next question that we have for y'all. So for Vanessa, so speaking of PhDs in cybersecurity, you know, are they necessary, right? We get a lot of back and forth about PhDs in general, but specifically in cyber, are they necessary? What can folks do with a PhD? And how can startups potentially partner with PhD researchers like yourself? Like, what does that look like in your space?
Well, first off, let me start by saying that the PhD does not necessarily, if you say, well, I want to get a PhD and I want to get a PhD in cybersecurity, it doesn't necessarily need to have the title of PhD in cybersecurity. We do have PhDs in cybersecurity. Of course, those are fairly recent, right? But there are also PhDs in computer science or computer information systems or engineering that have that cybersecurity concentration. And so the PhD in cybersecurity has many faces. It can have several different names, but they all go down to there's some sort of concentration in cybersecurity. So for one, there's all those different degrees that can all be cybersecurity. So is receiving a PhD necessary, or, you know, when is it beneficial? So it is definitely, I can say it's never detrimental. This is a question that I get all the time, you know, well, are you ever overqualified, you know, for jobs, you know, do you ever not get hired because you have that PhD? No, I can say that I've never had that problem. I've never found the PhD to be detrimental to my career. On the other hand, you know, in industry, it's always sort of like an amazing thing, like, oh my gosh, you have a PhD, and that's how exciting, you know, they always think it's interesting. So I've never found it to be detrimental, but I can say that it is not always necessary, nor will it always result in higher income or a better opportunity at landing a specific job. So I want to clarify that. It really depends how beneficial or necessary the PhD will be, depends on your line of work and where you're headed or where you want to be headed in your career. For example, if you want to be a full-time professor, like I am, if you want to go into academia, absolutely, a PhD would almost always be required due to accreditation reasons in universities. But academia is not the only career, right, where a PhD can be beneficial. There's upper-level cyber positions like CTO or a CISO, right, where it would definitely give you the edge to have that doctoral degree. So those higher-level cyber positions can definitely benefit from having a PhD. Also, if you're interested, this is a big one, if you're interested in conducting research, definitely, again, PhD is the way to go. One of the big elements of a PhD is the research part of it. We we conduct a lot of research. You learn, and as part of the PhD, you learn to do research. You learn to kind of question everything and come up with ideas on, you know, what you want to study. And in many different ways, there's technical research, non-technical behavioral research. And so there's a lot of types of research that you can conduct. And so if you're interested in research, particularly if you want to go to a research institution, then yes, I would recommend getting a PhD. Now, with regards to that last question and a partnership between PhD researchers and startups, there's definitely a lot of opportunities from conducting research through the startup. So a lot of the times I've participated in research where we go in and we're studying certain elements, right, that are part of that organization, all the way to having providing research outcomes that have actionable items that can be of practical use to a startup. So I'll give you a quick example. Right now, I've been working with a friend of mine on, this is behavioral research, and we're looking at increasing security policy compliance and how you can do that. And something like that can be of practical use to a startup, right? You know, this is how you should write your policy. This is how you can increase that that compliance, right, of your employees. And so I think there's a lot of room for partnerships in research, and not just in research, in the academia. You know, there's room for workshops, you know, to startups in specific subjects. So there's a lot of room where universities in general can partner with industry and with startups in particular to have a, you know, a relationship and mutual benefit.
That's really exciting to hear. So I hope folks are taking notes on that, is that, you know, don't be scared of academia folks or researchers or PhDs like Vanessa, that y'all are very approachable and flexible and here to be a resource too for startups. So thank you for sharing that. So the next question we have is for Dee. So switching gears over to industry. So what is it like working on cybersecurity in the private sector? Are there any myths that you want to clear up for folks in the audience, or things that you wish people knew about private sector that, for those of us who have not worked in private sector, would like to know about?
Okay, thank you so much, Amanda. Vanessa, that was wonderful direction as far as the pursuits of a PhD. I myself want to be part of the alphabet soup team, the game. You know, every time, you know, I'm a hiring manager, when I see someone with a PhD, I'm like, bring them over here. Let's see where we can afford them. Because they're just really, really awesome in how they execute and how they see challenges and how they overcome them. So thank you so much for that direction. I took notes myself. As far as the questions concerned that Amanda just you know, posted here, you know, how cybersecurity is an industry with what Booz Allen leverages our tradecraft and the variations that we insert ourselves and support, right, with our clients. It really has a lot to do with, one, I always tell people, the work that's cutting edge, where you really want to support three-letter agencies, Department of Defense, anything like that. I always tell young people or just anyone trying to get, you know, trying to look in, getting into that type of environment, a clearance, right? Top secret clearance. I think that's one of the huge differences you will see when you're going from academia and commercial work. The clearance really is vital to the in industry when you're supporting the Department of Defense clients. And then acquiring the clearance, maintaining the clearance, and what are those details, right? You know, good credit, things of that nature. You know, no interactions with law enforcement and a negative impact, things of that nature. And then as far as cyber is concerned, you just basically bring your tradecraft. So if you're a penetration tester or you are an engineer of some kind, we hire several electrical engineers, and I'm no joke, they do get into the cyber account. And it's their brain, the way they process things, the way they look at things, the way they address challenges. Just right there to Miss Patrick, what she was saying right there. I mean, it really does take a fascinating mind to take a look at the challenge from cradle to grave and literally see them whiteboard that out and have a solution at the end of that, you know. And I always say, and it's a little joke, right? A little gender joke. You know, men take 4 hours, we take 1 hour, you know, from cradle to grave, kind of, because we got to go pick up the kids at 1600, right? So, so, and I always kind of throw that in there, but, you know, I think that is one of the major differences I saw, going from military to, you know, clear defense contractor, and then also working with the government counterparts. And then when we were doing illicit finance, we did bring in some researchers to work with us on how we could tackle a problem. And so everyone has their space, everyone has their tradecraft, and it's amazing to kind of bring it all in and have them, you know, cooperate, collaborate, and coordinate to all reach the same goal. So if there's differences, I think the major difference I could see, you know, I've seen is the clearance, the tempo is different from, I could tell you that right now, working in industry with military, the tempo is very different. And you've got to be quick to pivot. And you have to, and it's very much, you know, the course of action mentality, your COAs, right? It's like, okay, you came with me, with a problem. I hope you also came to me with a solution. Okay. So, and I think that just really makes us, you know, highly adaptable, highly effective, efficient. And Booz Allen really looks for that. We really look for that. We really look for that ingenuity, that collective space. When you're interviewing someone, that's what you want to see during the interview. So I don't know if I answered that question. As far as the myths are concerned, you know, as far as women in cybersecurity, right? One of the questions that came up was, and it was from one of our senior level members, highly, you know, several degrees, was an officer in the military, and she said, you know, why do I have an HR person here at this meeting when it's supposed to be cybersecurity, right? Why do I have a member here from HR that's cybersecurity? Why is she here? Like, you know, I thought it was just all cybersecurity. But the member in the meeting managed all of the HR cases for the cybersecurity account. And so she wanted to kind of understand, you know, who was in the account, you know, their backgrounds and things of that nature, and why, because she wanted to see how could she help with any challenges they may be facing during COVID-19. You know, as a cybersecurity professional, you're always plugged in. You're always plugged in. And so I really found it neat that she took the initiative to say, you know, how can I help you? Do you need like a little coffee break in your virtual connection? You know, what do you need? So I think that was pretty neat to see that, how everybody kind of just came together. And I always tell people, one of the myths we could easily bust is this. You don't have to have a cybersecurity degree to be in cybersecurity, one. Two, you don't have to have a mathematics degree to put you on the top of the stack. Certifications hold a lot of weight. When during the interview process, when it comes to, you know, Booz Allen, me being a hiring manager, and what I've looked for, what I've, you know, sought out during the interview is, can you think on your feet? If we were to give you challenges, how do you address them? Are you professional? You know, are you, you know, that grit? Do you have that grit that we are looking for? And if you have a degree in business, but you have, you know, the OSCP certification, Office Offensive Professional, you know, you could do offensive operations, and you can, you know Python and things of that nature. Well, we're going to look at you a little differently. We're probably going to consider you for a position, even though you have a degree in business. So those are things that I really would want to stress here during this call and during this meeting. And I don't know if that helps anyone, because a lot of the younger people will ask that, you know, do I have to take mathematics? Do I have to pursue cyber? Do I have to go to UTSA and get that cyber degree? And well, hold on, you know, what do you want to do? That's the real question. What do you really want to do? What do you like doing? And so I think one of the awesome interviews I was a part of when I was being vetted at the agency was I got selected after my first tour, and they're like, oh, you know, we're going to give you over to this organization. And I was very intimidated, extremely intimidated, because I heard about them and I didn't think I was bright enough. I didn't think I was smart enough. You know, all kinds of stuff ran through my head. And they're like, no, we selected you for these reasons. And so I was like, okay. And I went in, and the first thing she did, and it was a woman, the first thing she did was, hey, Dee, you know, you came highly recommended. Here is the Rubik's Cube. I want you to solve that in 2 minutes. And I was shocked. And I was like, oh my goodness. And I said, well, can I do one side, or do I got to do all the sides, you know? And I said, do I get any credit for doing it, you know, doing at least, you know, all of it within 5 minutes? And she's like, I don't like negotiators. Just do it. And so, then right away, right, me as a young woman at the time, I was very young, you know, didn't know anything. I just felt like she ignited something in me. And I was like, challenge accepted, you know, and then I started doing, and I did not get all of them, but I did get most of them within 2 minutes. And what she was looking for was this. She was looking for the tenacious energy, the spirit, to go after something not knowing anything. And there was the problem set. And so I stayed with her about 3.5 years, and we're still in contact with each other today. So,
Gotcha.
that really is the major takeaway, right? And busting those myths, right? You don't need a degree in cybersecurity to be in cybersecurity. I hope that answered your question.
Right. No, I think it's great. And as y'all are talking, I'm looking down because I'm taking notes, but I love when you said you came to me with a problem. I hope you come with a solution too. I feel like that would make a lot of our lives easier sometimes. And I think we also probably do that too, where you're like, hey, we could do this better, but then you know you're volunteering to lead that work at some point if you raise your hand. So I think that's interesting to see that pattern no matter what sector that you're in. But I really love that. It's a lot of great information. I'm really glad we're recording this so that way people can refer back to it. Thanks, Dee. So next question I have is for Lynne. And I lost my place. There it is. Alrighty, so Lynne, why do you think people should consider public service? So we know that you work on the civilian side within the federal government. How can we encourage and support people of all ages who want to work for the federal government or even local and state government? So kind of speaking to your experience with public service, I know you have more than 2 decades of experience, so I'd love to hear about how that has, you know, overlapped with your path into cyber, but also why you've stayed in that space, right? Instead of jumping over into industry or academia potentially.
Wow, that was a good part of the question, you know, why do you stay? So we always joke among those in the civilians, not all of us, but some, you know, it's not about the money, it's why we serve. We serve because we want to be part of the team. You know, when the chiefs of staff and the president, everybody talks about the airmen, the civilians are included as part of that posture of the airmen. So it is the airman, it is the military member, it also is the contractor, it's a team. So why you stay in public service, at least why I stayed in public service, and I am a career civilian, as you mentioned, had a couple decades there. I did it because of the camaraderie. I did it because of the team. I did it because people are willing to accept you no matter how you came in. And if you're willing to educate yourself or be trained down a path or willing to, like I said, have the passion to go after it, the Air Force was willing to accept that in and get you trained and get you in those right areas. You can move around as much as you want or as little as you want. Most of the folks in cyber like to move. They want the challenge. They want the excitement. They want to see what the new, we call it the sexy, bright and shiny thing. Yes. It's all good. In the end, you know what you're doing it for. So if you understand what the mission is, the operation is, what your desire and the passion and fulfilling what the need is, this is a good place for you to go. And there are many folks that spend a few years in and go out to the civilian community. They do make more money. They do address different challenges. But I like the folks who jump out and come back in also because they bring that aspects to us. We learn from each other. We better the Air Force. We better the nation's mission to fight and go after what we're doing from the diversity and inclusion of all the different entities, from the academia, industry, government, everything. It's a partnership. It takes a little bit of all of us to make it work and make it right. And that's the purpose when I say, don't be afraid coming in. We have internships. You can get in through scholarships. You can get in through, we have cyber accepted service. There are many different facets and ways that you can become a civilian within the service. And then we have different areas. As Dee mentioned, Intel. I came in on what we used to be called common information, and now it's called cyber. We have every make and model of folks and career backgrounds that come in, and they do like Vanessa and Dee said, they start out one way, and then they get very intrigued and entertained in the cyber way, and they want to go do that. And you have that ability to do it. It just adds on to your career and goes. Like I said, I've
That's
seen
super helpful. I think one thing, so I didn't list all the positions when I introduced you. So do you want to share a couple that have led you to be technical director today? Like what are maybe a couple of roles that led to where you are now within the federal government so people can hear the diversity of positions that you've had?
That's a good point, because as we started out as a common information career field, a lot of folks think it's IT. And in the past few years, we now have and it's not a difference in, but there are similarities. There's the IT side and there's the cyber side. I would never say I was a traditional IT person. I was fortunate enough to be given jobs that said, hey, can you figure this out? It's a challenge. Can you build it, start it, go do it? Loved it. It kind of morphed me into the cyber, and I hope not to get too geeky. We have defensive and offensive capabilities and measures that we do throughout our mission. That did intrigue me. Getting away from what I call my traditional comm into that. So I started out as what we like to call a cable dog, a cable puller. I built cable, I ran fiber, I built networks. We stood up, different centers. I held jobs as chiefs, flight chiefs, division chiefs, directors. One of the job I held for 3 years in the Air Force was a squadron director as a civilian, which is actually very rare in the Air Force. Most of our squadron director positions are squadron commanders, and the military hold those titles. So I was very fortunate to have that position for 3 years and loved it. I had one of the squadrons still there, 90th COS, Shadow Warriors, got to put a pull in there for them. When you love the job and the mission and the people, that's what brings you back. And by the way, that's what entices us for the others. My current tech director position, I think because of that background of being common information and being a cable dogger, being a network engineer, sysad, then moving into the squadron and then working within the NAF and the wings and the different areas, numbered Air Force, that has lined me up to do that. But it's a combination. Again, it's a combination of what you bring to it, education-wise and training-wise, professionally, and also on the civilian side. It's a package. Find what interests you and excel in it. Make it your best. Does that help answer?
Yes, definitely. I love that. And I love hearing about y'all's journeys too. Especially, I had a short time in the federal government. It was maybe 7 or 8 months, but it completely changed my perspective, right? Coming from nonprofits and being in DC and then working in the federal government, you hear all these horrible myths as well, right? About it's slow and it's boring, people are unmotivated, government bloat, blah, 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 you name it, right? You've probably heard it all times 10 as well. But when you work with people who've been, especially on the civilian side, from president to president, from this type of Congress to that type of Congress, from these policies, this technology to that technology, it's fascinating because it's almost like you all are walking history books of the technological transformation of our government, right? And so I think that's why, I'm particularly excited to help people understand the different perspectives that y'all bring, and especially public service, because there's so much you can do to contribute as well, and have a meaningful contribution to the country, like you mentioned. So I think it's really cool for people to hear that perspective. Thanks, Lynne. All right, so now we're going to do some quick answers, and then we've got some questions in the Q&A, which is really cool, so we'll get to those. So this is like a mini lightning round, since we could talk all day, and I think now folks that are on the line, you'll understand why this is called squad goals, because who would not want to hang out with these 3 amazing people all day and learn from them all day, but we only have an hour. So I'm going to get to these quick answers. So what we'll do is I will ask the question, and then I guess we'll go backwards. So we'll start with Lynne, Vanessa, and then Dee. And so whatever you think of off the top of your head, and then we'll roll from there. So first question is, what is the coolest thing that you're working on right now? So we'll start with Lynn, and then Vanessa, then Dee.
The coolest thing and hitting us the most is AI, also RPA, robotics process automation. That is very intriguing. I love the fact that we have different avenues and reaching out to do it. Getting control and understanding of our data environment. We've got strategy and implementation plans, and then tagging our data stewards throughout and pulling it all together. That's been some of the biggest things. It's understanding what is the art of the possibility, what's available to us, and then using it to the best we can. And like you said, getting things to move quickly in the hands of the operator who needs them. Very key and very crucial in our environment with that constant emerging, the threats. We've got to be able to ingest it, turn it around, put it into play, and then be able to use it in the hands of the operators. So very key and very crucial.
Gotcha. Vanessa, what's the coolest thing you're working on right now?
So, well, I'm in academia, so I can't say that what I think is cool. Well, no, really, everybody would consider cool. But right now I'm really excited we're working on a new program at the university, and I'm part of the group that's working on this. It's analytics, and it's not something that's coming out of our program in cyber, but I'm really excited to be part of it because analytics in cyber is huge right now. And I'm pushing for us to grow in that direction and be able to teach our students how to conduct analytics in cybersecurity. And so I'm really excited about this new project because we might get to add this, and I've kind of been pushing for it for a while. So.
That sounds really cool. I mean, academia is cool. I'm also a nerd. I feel like everybody who's probably in the audience is a nerd too, which is why we're here. So yeah, don't worry. We are totally with you. We will nerd out with you. Dee, what's the coolest thing you're working on right now?
Thank you so much, Amanda. So just real quick, if I could just compliment the panel here. Amanda, I don't know if you did this on purpose, but industry with what we're doing with AI and machine learning, Miss Patrick and what she's doing as far as the process and overarching, kind of just empowering us to get it through the system to our operator. And then, Dr. Clark over here, how she is actually, grooming the community for industry and for, public service. So if you really look at it holistically, I mean, you did a phenomenal job bringing all three of us together. So bravo, I just want to kind of give you a shout out and a high five for that one. As far as the question that so what is the coolest thing, right? So just to echo what Ms. Patrick said on artificial intelligence, okay? And then all this really does, connect right now with all three of us with what we're doing. First, Ms. Patrick saying about artificial intelligence and machine learning, data science, anything like that in cyber operations really does have its own place. And talking from an industry perspective, I can tell you right now that is not only is it challenging, but I like to call it almost like we are the pioneers of this data. Protection teams, what they face every day, how they go out on mission, and what they have to deal with as far as bringing the data in, tagging the data, and making it timely, and to basically work with their mission partner networks. AI is at the forefront of that to enable them and support them in a timely manner to get down to the, the indicators, any indicators of compromise, any kind of possible malicious behavior hitting those nets, right? And protect, of course, our national security, our government, our infrastructure. So it is challenging, it's exciting, machine learning, predictive analytics, that is something that we are right now looking into, and how do we deploy those technologies in the infrastructure that we are operating in right now. Tell me what you don't know, and let's build a capability to find it. And so right there, that's just the major takeaway. And then also with Dr. Clark, if I can just share this real quick, cyber data, right? If you're doing data analytics and cyber operations, and that's what you're grooming the students to be doing, my hat's off to you. Let me tell you why. Because a lot of the people that come into industry, they're like, well, yeah, you know, I did data analytics for Netflix, I did data analytics for Amazon. And it's like, I don't want you to tell me how you can predict 6 months out they're going to buy a teddy bear off of Amazon during, you know, Friday Black Week or Black Week, whatever sale. I want you to tell me, can you clean PCAP data? Can you look at unstructured data sets and help predict that? And so if you are part of the data analytics team that is grooming the students to look at those type of data sets, well then that's where industry is looking to pull their talent from. Because it's very easy to tag a picture that says, yeah, that looks like a lion, tag one, you know, then something that says, is that actually a VPN connection tunneling out of this country? Let's tag that. So that's very challenging, and that's what the industry is looking for, to bring that kind of talent in. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think for folks that are, you know, in the audience, what I love hearing from the discussion is, yes, we're talking about cyber, but there's so many other things, right? There's this broader tech, you know, research ecosystem out there that I think sometimes in our brains we pigeonhole cyber into InfoSec hacker stuff. But listening to you all, I hope that folks in the audience take away too. It's a lot of data analytics. It's a lot of AI, machine learning, all the things that you hear everywhere else that we need in this space as well. So I think that's really cool to hear those themes come up amongst the three of y'all. So the next quick question I have, let's see. So we'll see if we can keep this short. So challenge to you all. What's the most exciting part of the San Antonio cyber ecosystem? And so we'll start with Lynne.
Okay, mine is the fact that we reach out to the community and we are able to learn from each other. So when I've been engaged with JBSA and also the San Antonio, we're able to actually go out there and have discussions with each other and share. We learn from each other. We have enough forums, engagements. We can always have more. It has to do with our time and our bandwidth to do it. But no one is afraid that I've seen in this community, and I've been in San Antonio for a number of years now, to reach out and say, I need your help, or what do you think, or what are you doing? One of our biggest pushes on the academia side. How do we help you groom and educate those folks to bring them into our environment so they're already hitting the ground with a clearance, already learning, already know to think the way we need them to think? That's exciting. We didn't do that before in the past. And I'm with you on that one, Vanessa. Cybersecurity didn't exist when we went to school, and we definitely called it something else. But the younger generation, younger than us, they're eager, they're excited. They need us to help direct them and tell them where to go. And forums like this one are perfect to get our messaging out there. Highly encourage, hope we do more. Look for the scope and get the right ones and get that messaging out. So that's what I like to say. Awesome, thank you. So Vanessa, what do you think is the most exciting part of the San Antonio cyber ecosystem?
Honestly, that there's so many different opportunities, so many things going on all the time, activities, job opportunities, events, you know, educational opportunities. And so we have a lot of stuff going on all the time. And sometimes that makes it difficult, as you already, you know better than anyone, Amanda, to corral, right, all of these activities that are happening. But we've got a lot of things to choose from, a lot of opportunities out there. And everything's geared toward a different area. I also think it's really cool that it's a small town in a sense. You know, a lot of us know each other, a lot of, you know, the universities know each other, even though, you know, we compete against each other, but we also have meetings, you know, and discuss what we're all doing and how everybody's doing. And so it's nice that we have all these opportunities, but then we also have that community, you know, it's a pretty tight-knit community, a lot, you know everybody, you start getting to know everybody in it. So that's what I think is exciting.
Thank you. No, I agree. Yeah, there's always a lot going on. There's no way I keep track of stuff. I know when I did the newsletter, the weekly newsletter, I would always have an email from somebody. I would know it, you know, as soon as it goes out, you left out this event, or hey, we have this job opening. Can you include this? I'm like, dang it. I know there's always something I miss. So that's a really fun part. And then meeting people in that space too. So I definitely agree with the community part and the relationships and potential. So I'm going to jump into Q&A. So Denise has a question. What do you see as the biggest leadership or interpersonal challenge facing cybersecurity leaders? That's a good one. Anybody want to start that one off? Biggest leadership or interpersonal challenge facing cybersecurity leaders?
I can jump in. So one of the biggest things that we find is that everybody is trying to show us what they have to offer. There are so many folks that are willing to address the challenges that we face. And the leaders have to understand how to analyze, this is great for Vanessa, analyze it, narrow it down, and then go after what we really need. And it's not, there's no one magical solution to some of the things we go, but as a leader, you're trying to understand what it is, get the best thing or best tool or capability we have out there, and then apply it to what we need so that we can put it in the hand of the folks that need to actually do the mission of their job. And that has been one of our biggest challenges as a leader. Great efforts by all in the community to do it. Just narrowing it down and getting the right it to what we're after has been our challenge.
Got it. Thanks. Vanessa or Dee, what do y'all think is the biggest leadership or interpersonal challenge facing cyber leaders?
If I can take this one, Vanessa, I would say the vetting process as far as, really getting to, the capability of an individual with all the tech that we have out there, right? How do I put this, right? So I always tell people the tool is not what makes the person, right? We always have a bunch of tools coming out here and there, left and right. And using those can be found in a standard operating procedure, right? A how-to book. But the intellectual property, the mindset of the individual is really the challenge that leadership faces, right? Because if they can identify it, and this is huge, identify it, process it, right, like a machine, and then communicate it, the output of the individual. Can they communicate the problem set and provide in a group or by themselves a solution that is tangible from up to general level, president level, all the way down to the user, the end user, right? Can they do that? Can they communicate that and even visualize it? Everybody loves dashboards. Can I get a hashtag dashboard, right? We love that stuff. And so that right there is the challenge. And we are faced with that, and I'll tell you why, because we're in the, this is our time. Big data is here. And I know a lot of people don't like that word, right? It's a buzzword, but we can hear the panel. We can talk about that because we're in it. We're doing it. Big data has big problems, right? And so we need big brain people that can assess that, identify it, assess it, and then communicate it. And sometimes, from what we've seen, the best solution is to have two types lead that initiative. So you have, the scientist in the back kind of, chugging through a lot of that, and then you have the communicator that can go from, this level all the way down to the end user, and they work very well together. But to find that pair is the challenge. It really is.
Right. Gotcha. I think that kind of segues a little bit into a question that was specifically for Vanessa. So I'm going to copy paste it back in the chat real quick at the bottom so you can see it. So Professor Clark, is it possible, quote unquote, two sets of books became two sets of data? Corporations, banks, government agencies, etc.
So yes, absolutely. And I don't know if I'm reading this in the way that you meant it, but yes, the idea of two sets of books, of course, from accounting, means that we're trying to hide something, right, from the public. And that is a clear connection, right, to cybersecurity. It's as accountants or cybersecurity professionals, what we're trying to do is we're working towards transparency and lawfulness, right? And so we're kind of fighting the two sets of books. you know, metaphorically speaking. And so, yeah, I see it. I definitely see the connection, and I agree.
Gotcha. Thank you. And then I realized I skipped D. So quickly, D, do you want to share what's your most exciting piece of the San Antonio cyber ecosystem?
Okay, well, I'm talking so much, I didn't think you missed me.
Okay, well, no worries. If not, I can jump to the last question. It's up to you.
I mean, so real quick, I don't know if anybody knows, Booz Allen, we have, the Cyber Center of Excellence. We have teams that, go from San Antonio to Austin, and it's all, it's all part of the continuous diagnostics and mitigation contract for the Department of Homeland Security. And it really is about building, innovating some cyber solutions, for the DHS community, and also, other partnerships that they have. And some of the exciting, I guess, part of the San Antonio ecosystem is that it is, of course, like a small town. And what's so exciting about it is the way the community is tailored to support the education sector, how the universities basically come together to address, lower income families, to push them through higher learning with scholarships. And a lot of them are in cyber mathematics, STEM focused. And I really like how the San Antonio area does not drop the student once they make it into that career field. They really track them, they really help them, they provide mentors for them. And it's not just a number. And to be able to speak to that at scale, that means that everyone down to, the high school counselor, the recruiters, they're really doing their job. And the message is really, it's a very personal message that people are adopting and they're executing on. And that's exciting for us as Booz Allen, because we pull from that talent pool. We really do, and we want to keep San Antonio. A lot of people in San Antonio, they don't want to leave. They don't want to leave. Why would you want to leave? Bill Miller's HEB. And when you've traveled all over the world, I kid you not, you miss HEB, right? That fresh produce. And so, so I think that's one of the exciting, areas that I wanted to kind of mention here during this call. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. Sorry for skipping you. So the last question, I know we're running up on time, but I thought it was an important one to ask to kind of close out. So before I do ask the final question, I'll say thank you in advance for all of y'all participating. I love hearing your stories. I learn something new every time I have a conversation with people like this. So thank you. And also for the audience, before we hit the last question, our next event for the Cyber Track is next Wednesday from 3 to 4 again. And so we'll go over cyber incident response plans, which is really exciting over through UTSA. And then the Wednesday after, we'll have another ecosystem discussion with some of our partners as well. And that one's really fun. You'll nerd out with that one too. And so final question is, we're in the middle of a global pandemic. We've got a national, election coming up. Folks are working from home. We can't travel. There's so much going on. There's a lot of stress. And as you all have all said in your own way, cyber, you're always on. You can't unplug. You turn on the news, you look at social media, you talk to your family. I'm sure all of us are like accidental IT, cyber, everything people for our families and friends. So one question that we had is, what is one thing that you're doing to take care of yourself during this pandemic? How do you relax or decompress? So we'll start at the top, let's see, with D, Lynne, and then Vanessa. So I'll go for it, D.
Can you hear me? Okay, I'm so sorry, I had it muted. So I think that's a little, I guess, disconnecting, I guess, I mean, that's actually hard for me to even answer. Does anybody here do that? I mean, I don't know.
Lynne or Vanessa, do y'all relax? Do you decompress ever?
So I have children, and I'll tell you right now, I love my children, right? And my children, and I'm on my second marriage, right? Very open about that. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. If it's not working, if it's broken and it's too broken, you know, you got to get out of that. And so my children really are the ones that grounded me a lot, as far as you need to unplug, mom. You know, you need to unplug. And it's not that you know, everything has a window. You know, this is focused on women in tech and cybersecurity. So I am going to lean forward and say, you know, here's the gender card. As a woman, as me as a woman, you know, I do have a board that is all about, okay, Girl Scouts 5 to 6, 6 to 7, dinner 8 to 9, you know, it's all the way down, right? And being an active duty member for almost actually 10 years, and I didn't have my children until after I got out. So I, you know, I did everything late. And I unplug, it's deliberate and scheduled unplugging. I know that sounds weird, but I actually say, okay, at this time we're surging, and then on this date I unplug. And the way I unplug, I did the Manitou Incline in Colorado here recently, and I was like, I'm going to unplug like that. And it, you know, it took me a few hours to make the incline, but I completed it, and that helped me decompress.
Right.
It's in my personality to make the most out of the time that we have, because that's something that's never given back. It really is. And so that's the way I decompress. And I think everyone is different. I do have some Netflix days. I think the Netflix addiction only really kicked off with Game of Thrones. And I was like, I don't care if we never get this time back, but I'm sitting here and I'm going to watch Game of Thrones. So yes, I do, but it is very deliberate and scheduled. Yes.
Yeah, but it's happening. So that's good to hear. What about you, Lynn? How do you relax or decompress?
Definitely decompress. Yellowstone's ours. I did a lot of Yellowstone, gone through the 3 seasons, so that's awesome. It rocks. You have to decompress, but you've got to include your family. Sometimes you just have to put the phones down and walk away from the laptop and the tablet and connect with your family. Reach out and make sure everybody's doing well, and share with them if you're having concerns or issues. And definitely exercise, go for walks, take care of yourself. Take care of yourself the most. If you're realizing you're getting overwhelmed, take a deep breath, walk away. Schedule time in your day. You know, you're at work, and if you're not teleworking, you're in the office, you take lunches. Make sure you have the ability to actually break away for a little bit and clear, even if it means going to the parking lot. I know, 90 degrees, kind of hot. Go outside, take a deep breath, but walk around or something. But you've got to connect with others. You know, we're human beings. We like to be around people, whether we're introverts or extroverts. So you gotta make time. You got to force yourself to do it.
I agree. Thanks, Lynn. All right, Vanessa, you are wrapping us up. We are at 4 o'clock. I don't want Jessica to get mad at us, but how do you relax or decompress?
I gotta say, I'm not the authority on. I relax by doing something else, by staying busy. So it's a problem. I will do crazy things like reorganize my closet, take all my clothes out, and put them back in by color and sleeve length. So I am very much a, you know, type A, like, organization personality, but it does relax me. So it does its job, right? It does. Somebody else sees it as work. I see it as fun relaxation time where it's just mindless. You know, I'm not doing something for work, or I'm not teaching something. Lately, I love to travel normally, not now, obviously. So traveling is normally my go-to. But lately what I've been doing is spending more time outside, even while I work. You know, in a meeting, you'll see me outside, and, you know, I'll be out. You'll see trees behind me, and everybody says, "Where are you?" Well, you know, I'm outside enjoying. It's nice weather today, so I've tried to do some work outdoors more than indoors. So
Gotcha.
that's always nice.
I love that. I love being outside too. I like bike riding, so that's been my thing lately. Now that the weather's getting a little bit more chill, but not really. So yeah, I love the outside theme and disconnecting. Well, thank all of y'all for joining us today. Thank everybody else for your questions and for being here. And we really appreciate y'all. And again, look out for the CyberTrack events the next 2 Wednesdays. And hopefully we'll see y'all again soon. So thank you to Vanessa. Thank you to Lynne. Thank you to Dee. And we'll be sure to connect folks via LinkedIn or another way to stay engaged and to stay a part of the cyber ecosystem. And thank you to the San Antonio Startup Week as well. So appreciate y'all. Bye, y'all.
Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you. Thanks, Andrew and Denise. Great questions.